All right, well, it's after 4:30, so we can get this meeting started. Welcome, everyone. Thanks for virtually being here. So this is a meeting of the Lodging Tax Advisory Committee, having a special meeting today, looking at a couple of important things. If you've all got your copy of the agenda, or you can see it on your screen, our first item of business is to approve the minutes of the September 19, 2019 meeting and the September 25, 2019 meeting. Now, I was not the chair at that time for either of those two, so I can't say whether the minutes are accurate or not. So if you've looked over it and if they look good, then I'll let you guys make the motion. But somebody actually has to make the motion. Okay, well, with no motion, then we can't approve the minutes. I can, as chair, say that we can tentatively approve without objection at this level, if that's all right with everyone.
I think my mic was muted, but I motioned to approve the minutes.
Okay, so we do have a motion. Thank you, Amy.
Yes.
I second the motion.
Okay, so we've got a second. Thanks, Lindsay. Any discussion about these minutes?
No.
Hearing none, then all in favor of approving these motions, please signify by saying aye.
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 All opposed, no. All right, the minutes are approved. Thank you. Next item of business is elect a vice chair. Obviously, as councilman, I am the chair, but sometimes I can't be here. And so it's we can take nominations at this point for a vice chairperson. Nominations are open.
What is it that the vice chairperson?
If the chairman cannot be there, for example, if I'm unable to be there and the meeting has to be held, then the vice chair chairs the meeting.
Oh.
Well, I nominate Amy Rubio.
Okay, Amy has been nominated. As I understand, the two of you are the only
People here?
members who are here.
That's great.
So to follow protocol, Amy, you have to second the nomination for yourself.
I second it.
Okay. Any discussion about Amy's nomination? Hearing none. All those in favor of Amy Rubio as vice chair of the LTAC committee, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye, if I can vote for myself.
You can, yes. I too vote aye. It is unanimous. Amy, you are the vice chair. I'll make a note of that. And it's a really, really hard job. Lots and lots of responsibility. I don't miss many meetings.
Oh, okay.
All right, next item of business. Item C, review a general proposal received from the American Legion Post 73 for 2020 lodging tax funds for improvements at the Jerry Taylor Veterans Plaza and consider recommendation to City Council. All right, so last year there were a couple of things that came up and that made the committee decide not to approve the Jerry Taylor Plaza's request for funding. Jackie, do you want to remind people of where we were at that time? What was going on?
So last year when we received the proposals, we were unsure of the ownership of the granite slabs and the plaza itself. So the committee decided to pull the item. And so after we researched some more, just recently we found a resolution where the City Council approved the donation of all of the work on the plaza. And in 2015, But because that was done in a resolution, the correct way to receive a donation like that would be through an ordinance. So what we're going to do is at the next city council meeting, we will present an ordinance kind of cleaning up that resolution to accept the donation and any future work. So it's kind of just a cleanup ordinance. And so that's what happened, and that's what we're doing to correct this, and so that American Legion can request lodging tax funds for a new granite slab, and they're requesting $17,000. I believe their second, what was it? I think it was 13,000. So their priority is 17,000, but their reduced amount is 13,000.
Okay, so to make sure that we all understand it, especially me, so there was a question about whether, because of the ownership confusion, that if the ownership wasn't correct, then giving lodging tax to the American Legion may have been illegal under that situation, correct?
Correct.
Okay,
Because it's considered a capital expenditure.
Yeah, we had
Okay.
taken care of this clear back in 2015 before we had ever.
you muted yourself, Greg.
Councilor Bursma, are you allowing public comment at this time? Or are you fine with him?
We haven't really opened it up for public comment at this time. So Greg, we will be happy to hear from you in just a couple of minutes. Just want to make sure that the committee is all on the same page at this point, and then we'll ask you for some comment if that's okay with you. So basically, as you heard from Jackie, we have clarified, there was a mistake, and it was made on the part of the city. First of all, that we did not publish the information that needed to be published, and thereby finishing out the entire acceptance. And we will now correct that. We will have to make a motion and pass that at the next regular city council meeting, which will be done. That's part of the agenda. And so then the other one was, there was some difficulty in finding the proper paperwork. Went through the process. We talked with the city manager at the time, Mr. Day, who remembered that and knew that it had happened. And so encouraged staff in some of the areas where they might dig perhaps. And that has been found. And like I said, council has plans on making the corrections and getting that fixed up. So that's taken care of. We're now in a position to where we can move forward on this request. Now, I'm going to open it up for any committee members to make any comments at this time about this request. You should all have it before you. Any comments from the committee members, Amy or Lindsay?
For this request is, we can approve, since we already approved some from the last time, people can come in and request amounts after we have already gave money away, that what we had for budget, or how would that work?
Well, this is a special meeting to deal with this one special request. We will in August or September have our regular meetings and deal with the requests that are coming in at that time. This is just to correct a mistake that was on the city's part.
Oh, okay, that's what I was, yeah, because I remember there was kind of questions about if we were able to fund the money or not.
Right, and Jackie, jump in at any time to correct me where I'm wrong, because you've got a lot more knowledge about some of these things than I do. So I will certainly listen to your input. But yeah, we've taken steps to try to correct the things that we needed to do to make this a legal transaction. And at least from my part, I feel pretty strongly about the Veterans Plaza. I like what they're doing, and I'd like to see that continue. But that's just me personally. And so if you guys have opinions on this one or comments on this one, I'd certainly like to hear them.
Yes, and so it's just up to the committee if they believe that this is a good use of the lodging tax funds for this. And like Councilor Boersma said, we're doing the corrections to the 2015 ordinance so that it would be correct, like the ordinance would correct the resolution that was from 2015. And in 2019, I know that they had questions about if does this actually bring in heads and beds, but that's up to LTAC to decide.
Okay, other comments? Lindsay, do you have anything to add to this?
No, I'm just looking at the one that we had from last year, and I guess that's, I guess the biggest question I remember that came up last year is, yeah, if it really qualifies for the money. And so that's all I was looking over and seeing what they put on here.
So as I read over it, it didn't seem like they said a lot about people staying over, but they did talk about perhaps sales of certain memorabilia. I would think that there's a possibility, although it's kind of hard to gauge, that somebody gets off the highway and spends an hour or so looking at that, may decide to eat in town, may decide to find a overnight lodging in town. That may be something they change their plans for that. I'm not sure, but to be able to document that people have come and spent the night in a hotel, I'm not sure how we would do that.
What do we have left for this year's budget? Because it would be, the money that they're asking for would come out from this year's budget, correct?
Yes.
So what do we have left? Do you have a number?
I am looking for that document. Jackie, maybe you have that?
Yes, I do have that. Let me put it on the screen for you guys. I just got an updated one from Elizabeth. So I asked her how much like we've actually received in revenues as of today. Let me share my screen with you. Do you guys see that?
I do.
Yes.
Okay, so I'll kind of highlight as I go. So this is what we started the year with, or we ended 2019 with, is 171,450 cents. And then this is how much we've received in 2020, is $41,254.96. As it's 34.4% is what we received, and Elizabeth said we should be at 50%. So obviously with COVID happening, people aren't staying in the hotels as much as they were in previous years. So we aren't receiving as much. So we should be at 50 compared to other years, but we're at 34.4%. So we budgeted 150,000 for services, which is like the events and everything. And so far we've only used $41,939.35. I kind of just ran through the numbers that of the events that would happen, the contracts. And if we were to, with all of the contracts that we have in place now, we would be left with $55,128.54 at the end of this year.
At the end of 2020.
Yes. So what I just subtracted like the Cinco de Mayo contract, what we paid A&A, and then $60,625.92 for Yakima Valley Tourism. Now, all we've paid them so far is $4,929.88, but their contract, I just subtracted their contract amount. We don't know what their actual what invoices they're going to submit for reimbursement yet. So, but it can be up to $60,625.92. I subtracted the lighted farm implement parade, the Sunnyside Sun, and then Sort for a Cause So that would leave us at $55,128.54. And then if Sunshine Days happens, then we'd have to subtract that contract from that total.
Mhm.
And then that doesn't include that year-end total for 2020 that I gave you is just an estimate. And then it doesn't include whatever revenues we receive from now to December.
Right, okay.
I know it's lots of numbers. I'm sorry.
Does that help, Amy?
Yeah.
Okay. Any other questions? Okay, seeing none, I'm gonna open it up and let Greg make a few comments here. Go ahead.
Thank you, Dean. When we did this back in 2015 with myself and Don Day, I had never asked for any lodging tax, but that was kind of on the agenda. And I had also talked with the city manager before that, Frank Sweet, I think his name was.
Right.
But we had just been in a talking stage, so we never, and that's what Don Day wanted to clarify, whether clear back then, whether we ever put it on paper. And I told him I didn't, but the thing I wanted to be done in conjunction to make sure that the capital goods were going to the city, because it's city property. I also wanted to make sure that, because these are expensive features, we got over $300,000 on that Veterans Memorial, and we're only 1/3 done. So I wanted to make sure, being on city property, that these items were all placed under their insurance policy. So if somebody had a heart attack driving down the road and ran into one of them that, could be replaced, we didn't have to go out and, so that was a major consideration. So I hope that the city is able to look back and see if these items actually were placed under the insurance also, so that benefits the Legion and the city. But yeah, we did this a long time ago, and it was up, like Dean said, it was up to the city to process the paperwork and do that. And the other thing that got brought up in this, I attended over 4 years or 5 years, quite a few of these LTAC meetings, and beds, and I just want to say beds and staying overnight is only one of the considerations for funding. Cultural improvements, cultural advantages to the city is another real valid reason why they could use funding. And this isn't the first time. The lodging tax at one time went to repair the museum, which is owned by the city, and they wanted to do some repairs on the building. I think it was air conditioning or something, but they've used it for capital improvements in the past. So, and I think there's a few other cases. If you went back about 10 years, you'd find that there's a few other times they used the funding for capital improvements that went to the benefit of just the city, nobody else. Although another nonprofit organization facilitated that use of the funds. But anyway, I don't think I have any more to say. But I'm glad that they were able to find a contract and all that. So.
All right. Well, thank you, Greg. And I can tell you that we did find that the property has been on the city's insurance rolls, I think, since 2015. So that has been covered. So it wasn't a question there. People remembered Mr. Day saying, make sure it gets on the insurance. And Mr. Day remembered saying that the only question was finding the paperwork and the proper documentation. What am I looking for? The records that stated that we had approved that and that because it was one of those things that happened, people knew it happened, and it was never talked about again. And so we thought we were fine. So we're going to get this fixed on our next meeting. It's not going to be this Monday, but it'll be the following. And it's just going to come up where council is going to approve that again. And then make sure that it is published, because that was I think the one step that we didn't take, that it needed to be done. And either it was an oversight or we just forgot that it needed to be done. So apologies on that too, as far as that goes, Greg. But we'll get this fixed.
Yeah. And I
All right.
want to make one more comment that because of this pandemic that's worldwide, and as you can imagine, people are not ordering granite. It's not a high priority thing. And consequently, these are black granite walls. We get it from northern India. We get it from the same quarry. It's the only quarry in the world that has what they call really dark black granite that has no quartz in it. It has no sparkle. It has, you know, it's just a solemn black. And it's the same granite quarry, actually, that the Vietnam Veterans Memorial in Washington, D.C., which is a very famous Veterans Memorial. It's the same quarry that that memorial was made from. And but right now, we're getting about, it's not quite 25% off the price if we go ahead and order 4 walls. And so I think it's a great time for the city to be able to go from having 15 granite walls to having 20 granite walls within just the next 6 months. And I don't think we'll ever be able to buy that granite that cheap again. You know. So just wanted to add that's it'd be great to take care of that advantage. So.
All right. Thank you, Greg. Okay, so I'm going to close the public comment at this point, unless Ms. Hart wants to weigh in.
No.
Okay, thank you, Julia. Just wanted to make sure you were the chair at that time. Okay, so what is the desire of the committee? We have a request for a top number of 17,000 and a secondary number of 13,000. What does this committee wish to do with this? I'll just open it up for that kind of discussion right now. Either one of you guys right now.
Sorry, I was reading what was in front of me here with this. What is this? Oh, is this?
What are you, which, oh.
There's a screen in front of me and I wasn't sure if I was supposed to.
Oh, I'm sorry. So I'll
Okay.
tell you what that screen is.
Oh, okay.
I meant to share the agenda packet. So I'll show you the screen again. The blue screen is just, it's our bias is our system that we use. And so this shows everything we've paid out to American Legion from 2015 through 2018. But that's just what I was looking up to see what we've paid out to them in the past. But I'll put back the agenda packet.
Well, I'm glad you brought that up. That was good to see.
So I think it's a great addition to our community, and I love the Veterans Plaza. I think it has potential later on to bring tourism in. I believe they mentioned it, but I know when they had, I don't know, I cannot remember his name at the moment, but when he came here, that was one thing he really liked. The guy that came here to talk about tourism in Sunnyside. Oh. Yes. So anyways, that was,
Roger Brooks.
Thank you.
Thank you. So he, I know he said that was a really unique thing for our community to have. So as long as the, you know, from what I can tell, the money is there and everything, I'm for it, unless somebody has another view of it.
Amy, any comments?
I I agree. I'm for it. I do see people going by taking pictures when I go pick up my kids from school. So I do see people there. I personally like it. I would like to see, more added on there. Like they're requesting. I think it's a nice feature here in Sunnyside.
Okay, so does one of you want to make a recommendation for which number we accept, 17,000 or 13,000?
I say the 17,000.
Okay. So do we have that as a motion, Lindsay, or?
Did I motion that? Well, I motion to give them the 17,000.
Okay. And it requires a second.
And I second it.
Okay, that's what we needed. So we have a motion and a second to award the proposal to the American Legion for $17,000 for the purchase of granite slabs in order to continue the development of the project. Any other discussion on this before we go to a vote?
Just making sure council is going to approve and fix all that next meeting, correct?
Yes, they will do that before we present the LTAC proposal.
Okay, sounds good. That was just what I wanted to double check.
Okay, so to ratify this with a vote, all in favor of the proposal to award the Veterans Plaza $17,000 for that purchase, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All opposed, no. I also vote aye, so the motion has passed. So the Jerry Taylor Veterans Plaza will receive the $17,000. Thank you for that.
Counselor Boersma,
Yes, ma'am.
it'll go to council for final approval of the
Correct. That's
17,000.
yes. Thank you for that reminder. You are correct. Council will make the final approval on that. But it means a lot when it comes from the LTAC. So thank you guys for that. Our next item of business, provide direction for the 2020 Sunshine Days event. As you know, events have been canceled all along throughout this year. It seems as if every time we start looking forward to something, there is a reason to cancel it this year, whether it's the Cinco de Mayo or 4th of July celebrations. And now we've seen that the state fair is canceled. Other events are canceled, and it's for the fall. So we need to talk about that. What do we see as happening for our Sunshine Days celebration?
So, obviously I mean, numbers are going up. I haven't checked today what the numbers were, but I know the fair canceled. I did talk to Miss Sunnyside. They are postponing their pageant as well. And I believe Diana said she sent an email to city as well saying they are postponing the pageant. I was hoping we could do a parade and people kind of stay in their cars and not do the whole, I guess, festival. I was kind of thinking as an LTAC chair to save that money and, for next year, because I don't know what we are going to be able to do for 2020 or it would be 2021 funding.
And that is a good consideration as well, because as Jackie pointed out on our current budget, we're at 34%, not at 50% of where we should be.
Mm-hmm.
And probably looking at a continuation of that for the remainder of this year, which means that 2021's LTAC funds will be negatively impacted as a result of that, because in September, October, or August, September, we start seeing the request for funding for next year's activity. And we want those things to happen next year. And
Yeah.
we want to do everything we can to make sure they happen. Any other thoughts on the drive-by event that Amy was talking about?
I mean, I don't know, I don't know if city would allow to do, the parade and everybody kind of stay in the car and how that would work. But that was kind of an idea I had, to kind of still have something because I mean, we're still kind of far. I'm hoping cases would drop and we can do something, but I do still want to be mindful and save that money for next year as well.
Okay, so you don't have any idea yet how that's actually going to look?
I kind of have an idea of what I wanted to do, and I've kind of run it through Joey, like what he thought. It wasn't really like it was kind of a idea because we were thinking about doing one for the seniors. But I haven't really just sat and planned it all out and how we would monitor people. I don't know if we will be able to monitor everybody's going to be in their car. It would be kind of something, I guess, from city that would say, you know what, I think it would just be safe we don't just do one, because I mean, to monitor everybody in their car, but I feel like it would be something nice to do. I'm just kind of waiting to kind of get recommendation what we should do.
Okay. Lindsay, any comments?
Nope. This is just an odd year, I think, for all of us. So it would be nice to have one, but with the fair being canceled, it is kind of hard to hold out hope for it. So
Yeah, the only thing, the vision that went through my mind, and I'm sure it's not even possible, but all of our floats would be alongside the road on the sidewalks, and we would all drive past them, and we'd do the parade, and they would be what we'd be there to see. Unfortunately, if it was me driving or people like me, they would probably be rear-ending the car in front of them because they're busy looking to the side, not paying attention to what's in front. So I think there'd be a strike against people like me.
I did actually think of like a drive-through kind of parade where we would invite just royalty floats and kind of monitor people driving through. But I did think about, well, people, are they going to be focused driving, or are they going to be looking? That did cross my mind, but I mean, I'm open and I'm willing to try, but it's all up to, I mean, I guess what numbers are. I have not, I guess, invested anything in for Sunshine Days because I know the situation we are in, and I have hope maybe we can do something, but at the same time, I'm being mindful and I don't want to spend if we're not able to do anything.
So is there a separate Sunshine Committee? Sunshine Days?
I have people asking if they can help. Obviously with COVID, I haven't been able to meet with anybody. It's just kind of things that people have messaged me or told me they'd like to do, which is like, they all have like all this grand things, but it's a lot of people getting together. And so we haven't really, okay, what can we do for social distancing? And that's the only thing I have personally thought of. I have talked to some different royalties about it, if they were willing to, before I even like presented it, to city, like, hey, we want to do this. And they were all for it. But at the same, because, they haven't been able to do anything. And like Miss Sunnyside hasn't been able to show their float as well. So it's kind of like, a lot of things you would need to have big crowds. So we would need something either drive through or people would stay in their cars to kind of watch.
Amy, do you know anybody from Prosser Bethel Church?
No.
Because they do that drive-through nativity.
Oh, okay.
So I know, as far as like, because that's the only thing that I thought of too, but I was afraid of the same thing. But I don't know anybody to ask how they work that out, where people are not rear-ending each other. So, that's what I think about. That's what because how can you drive and look at the same time? So yeah, but I don't know anybody to get a hold of and ask them how they work that out for themselves. So
yeah, it's something that could possibly be done in the school parking lot, and we could just cycle through instead of taking up whole streets and that sort of thing.
Or we could do it in the Walmart parking lot too, because Walmart's all for doing community events.
This is true, and that's a bigger parking lot. So
So I mean, I'm up for, I mean, I want to be mindful, and I want to be, I want to save money. You know, if we had a parade, we wouldn't be spending, you know, unless we wanted to give somebody a trophy, you know, we would, that's what we would spend. Or if we wanted to make gift bags for the royalty that did come in. But to say that I would use that whole, but what I was given, I wouldn't, you know, just because there's no, we wouldn't be doing, to advertise, I guess we could do social media to save money.
So would there be a possibility of doing something like a virtual tour as well? So we could get it on video, people could see it?
Yeah,
That's
we could
what they wanna
do, you know, I'm sure with, we could do it like on my business page. Maybe we could do it on the city's page and kind of do a virtual with, you know, on Facebook, and people can watch, kind of like they did at the high school for the, what was it called? Be the Light, I believe it's called. They did it every Friday, where the kids just drove through the parking lot, honked for 20 minutes, and then, you know,
Mhm.
they left. I mean, that worked really well. I would go every Friday, and support, you know, support the kids. So a lot of people did just park on the side of the high school and kind of just honked for 20 minutes, or the kids were driving by and everybody would, you know, there were some people outside their car, but they were really, everybody was social distancing.
Mhm. Well, I was thinking kind of along the lines of just kind of like a moving, like somebody's driving through and they're filming it as they go through, and you get a good view of each of the groups who's there. Maybe somebody with a drone, they can fly over and get a nice aerial view, because some of that stuff looks really cool. I don't know how to do that. I see
Mhm.
that other people do it, and from my perspective, it looks really easy, but I know it's not. And you know, there's got to be some knowledge behind all of that that I don't have, and equipment that I don't have. So you know, I have these ideas, but if I have no idea how it works, I need to be shut down before I go too far on that, you know.
Yes. I wasn't, with the contract we did, didn't they say that we got video, Jackie? Or the, trying to think, I lost, they do the come to the sun page.
Yeah, Yakima Valley Tourism said that we'd have video for our events. So if we had sunshine days, I'm sure that we can tell them, hey, we're gonna have we need video for this.
So I guess what I'm looking for is a consensus from this group that I can bring to council, a recommendation perhaps, and you know, and we can bring that to council, and council can vote to either approve or to say, no, let's not do it this year. But they need something to work with. And so is there some sort of a proposal from one of you that we can take to council?
I propose to do a drive, I guess, a parade, and kind of, you know, have people in their cars, somewhat to the Christmas parade where people park, and we can maybe for this time change the route, kind of like the Christmas Day parade route. So there's more people to be able to park in their car.
Okay. Okay. Any other comments on that, Lindsay?
No, I leave that to Amy because she knows what it should look like, and I think she has a good idea. So I think that recommendation sounds great.
Okay. Keeping in mind through all of this too, that you know, they were planning on doing the farmers market and different things in town, and got up to the point where they were going to do that and got stopped. Things weren't going to work. So that could still happen here as well. So we may end up putting a bunch of work into this and then see it be denied at the last minute. Hopefully that doesn't happen. You know, for the last couple of days that I've seen, the numbers of infections have been down. I don't know what we had today. So it's anybody's guess. And I heard that they're not going to start testing again until Monday now. So the whole weekend they're taking off. So we could have either a huge number next Monday, or we could have a really low number. Hopefully nothing happens over the 4th where it brings numbers up. But we don't know that yet. We're not going to know that until the next couple of weeks. So,
And I
That-
have seen an increase of people wearing masks. I don't know, and I know the city has been giving people masks in Nuestra Casa. So I'm at the door at Walmart enforcing everybody to wear a mask. So myself, I have seen an increase since last Friday, and people wearing masks. So I'm hoping numbers drop. But then again, it's 4th of July weekend, so.
yes, so hopefully we can nip that in the bud. All right, any more comments on the Sunshine Days event?
No, I will just wait, I guess, till we get closer. That's what I'm hoping we could do. And, like you said, we could cancel at the last minute.
Okay, that sounds good, and I will present that to council at our next regular meeting as well. So the next item of business, item E, is something that I suppose anybody would have figured out would come out of this entire year, being the way that it is. Contract language for the Lodging Tax Committee. We issue contracts throughout the year. Amy, of course, has been the recipient of a couple of those. And the contracts have not always, well, they have never anticipated a year like this one. And we want to look at the language of these contracts to see if we can change that to not only protect our vendors and the people involved in putting these things together, but also to protect the city. And I think Jackie's got a little more information on that you might want to share.
That's all that I had when I talked to Mr. Casey. It was about that language if we cancel events. And the contracts that we use right now are just like templates that from previous years, we just keep reusing them, and they are pretty generic. So maybe we would give them in these upcoming, maybe like next year, we would give them the applications and they would work each agreement to the event or whatever it is that their proposal says.
Yeah. So we're talking contracts on the agenda, but what I have in front of me is a project proposal. Does the contract have different language than the proposal?
I'll show you I'll show you Rotary's contract. 1 second. So this is what our contracts look like, and it looks like that for everybody. And we changed the name up here to the organization and then the event name. And it just basically describes what the lodging tax fund is. The funds are what it's about. And then it says Rotary is able to provide advertising. Oh, I can't scroll. Hold on. And it has the scope and purpose of the agreement. And then we always put Exhibit A, which would be the proposal that shows the scope of work. And then it talks about the payment from the city. And so let me scroll down to the part entire distribution. So this is the part that we kind of ran into with A&A promotions for Cinco de Mayo, early termination. So this section just says that we would reimburse for advertising expenses, but through the lodging tax fund, you can pay for maintenance and operations. So like when Amy pays for her porta potties or different things like that, you could pay for that. But if we cancel, the contract says we can only pay for advertising. But so that's why we ran into that problem this year. So if there's any suggestions of what else we need to add on to the agreement or change.
Okay, so either of you two have any suggestions for changes on this? So Amy, since you're the one who went through this most recently
Mm-hmm.
and in the largest way, what was the area of this early termination thing that gave you the most difficulty?
It was just kind of the wait of to see if I was able to being approved for I guess what I had already spent. And it actually did help, getting something back. And for me, I was very grateful, and it kind of how to say it helped me kind of keep, so I'm able to do something for Sunshine Days, or able, say we cancel Sunshine, I'm able to do for next Cinco de Mayo, or do, it just really helped me. I don't know, it was really stressful because I had already spent all this money, because I mean, when I got approved, what was it, back in August, there was no COVID. Once the COVID started, I had stopped spending, money, because I knew, I don't think, I had hope, but as we had those last meetings, I hadn't spent any money. So I couldn't see any, I guess, I would feel for another person that went through that. I guess it was really hard, I guess, just to think like, okay, I might not be able to do events anymore because I have already spent, all this money had already went to an event that I was supposed to host. I don't know. But I mean, as far as doing, the LTAC, I know we would have to protect the city and the LTAC funding as well.
Right. And so, some of the objections have been that, this is an event that wasn't held. And so therefore, do we need to reimburse the contract holder? But I know for an event like Cinco de Mayo, you pay a deposit for your performers, do you not?
Yes.
And did any of them reimburse you for this?
No. So what I do is, I guess it's like kind of like a credit. They're telling me, okay, well, you're booked for next year. That's if I get approved, city says, yes, you're approved for next year. I have my deposit and everything set for next band, not next band, but next year. I'm using the same bands that I would.
Right. And if somebody else gets it and you don't get approved for the contract and somebody else gets it, then they don't use the same bands. Well, then they just get the deposit. Is that how that works?
Yeah, kind of. I haven't gotten that far yet.
Okay.
I mean, but that's something, at the same time, there's a lot of things, that I'm like, okay, well, what if, I guess we would have to clean up more. It's just hard because this is a big event. I do start doing it in August, and nobody predicted what was going to happen. So, I mean, same thing, like say for Farm Implement, I know they spend a lot of money and they have to make cost as well. So it's kind of like, if they had to cancel, do we just leave them hanging as well? Like,
Mm-hmm.
it is a big you're spending an investment, and, you have to plan ahead of time for a big event.
Right. And, this is not something that we can anticipate with any kind of accuracy. From a year ago to where we are now, the world's an entirely different place. And in living memory, I don't think that's ever happened. I mean, we could suggest in 1918, the Spanish flu, which went on for 3 years, but we don't have any idea what we're looking at here. Is this going to end in a year? I mean, originally it was 2 weeks to flatten the curve, and that was 4 months ago, practically. And so we can't predict this. And so I think what we're trying to do here is anticipate, which may not be entirely possible, but to anticipate a completely unpredictable event happening, and all of a sudden everything goes sideways on us. And I want to protect the businesses involved in putting this all together, but I also want to protect the city from from any financial harm as well, because, you know, this has damaged the city's economy as well. So
Yes.
I want to do what's best for everybody. You talking about, you got your advertising reimbursed, but there's other expenses that are incurred as well.
Mhm.
What would some of those be? Just, can you give me a quick list?
For what was that again?
Some other
Like-
expenses besides advertising.
Well, you know, I do, I guess, deposits on the magazines, before the movie. You know, I start buying garbage bags, garbage cans, spray paint, all the little things that, I guess, you know, zip ties. There's a lot of little expenses that we do, but it does add up. And I start buying now because like Ace, they always have the garbage bags on sale at a certain things like February, March. So I go and stock up on all those. You know, that's something I didn't turn in because I thought, you know what, I can use that hopefully for sunshine days, or, you know, if, you know, somebody else needed it for an event, like I'm always like, oh, here, I had this kind of thing. But there's a lot of, you know, I guess, you know, making deposits if I had to for the generators. Sometimes I was switching companies. They did require a deposit. At that time I was getting quotes, and they were really good about working, because that was when the COVID just started. So they said, we're not going to make you put a deposit until like the month before, but we will write you down that you want it. So there is, I guess, there's a lot of, you know, different. And I know a lot of times last year, like the entertainer, they will call me and they'll say, hey, do you want the front page? They're, you know, the person that would buy it for that month in May decided to cancel. So, you know, they can call me during any time of the year, and then I'll just say, yeah, I do want it.
Mhm.
So I make those kind of expenses. And then what do they call the sandwich boards? Those are something. Also like tape to tape down the bumpers for the wires on the floor. When I don't know what the exact term what they're called, but I call them speed bump kind of, but they protect your
Oh, yeah.
wire.
Okay, yeah.
I know when Labor and Industries, they did come down, they did say we needed those.
Mhm.
So that's something else I've been little by little every year. I've been buying more and more, just because, you know, they either get damaged or it winds up going missing during the event. So those are things that I have been buying.
Yeah, because they won't let you use duct tape anymore.
No.
Okay, yeah, I just kind of wanted an idea of some of the other things, because we talk a lot about your deposits and your advertising and that sort of thing, but I think it's easy for us to forget all the other things that you need to buy in the course of all of this. And just this list is good to remind us.
Yeah, like gloves, the pickers, to pick up garbage, brooms to clean up. And I buy several brooms, shovels, and it's kind of like every year we have to, especially the brooms, because there is so much garbage. I can't keep them, even if I wanted to wash them. They just all weekend, they really do get used.
Mhm.
So that's something that I do have to buy. And push brooms, you know, I can't just buy one or two because we do have several people cleaning up that we buy. So, and we do go, I want to say we go through like 30 boxes of garbage bags is what I normally buy, and I'm left with maybe like 2 or 3
Mhm.
at the end.
Well, and I
So-
appreciate that you do that, because I saw some pictures of the Seattle occupied area and the cleanup that they were doing, and the amount of garbage there was absolutely mind boggling. So the fact that you've got people doing that throughout the entire event is, I'm very happy to see that. That's just fantastic.
Yeah, so there's a lot of little things. I don't have, you know, I have an actual list of all the, because I do sometimes forget, like, oh, I need to go buy the pickers or the sign, you know, different little things. I do have a list of everything that, you know, I kind of check it off to make sure, because, you know, there's always something that you forget to buy or to do. And, you know, spray paint to spray paint the lines. That, you know, the cans, they run about like $6-7 a can, and we use a couple of them.
Yeah, a couple.
So, I mean, I feel like every year there's something new that, you know, we get like an inspector or something and he's like, well, you need this or you need that. So since I've been doing it every year, there's been something new that we've had to add. And I'm sure for next year, the health department's probably going to require us to all have sanitation.
Mhm.
And I know this year I had added more porta potties and more wash stations because we just we didn't have enough the year before. So every year I keep adding.
Okay, so those are expenses at, see here, shoot, my mind was going in a specific direction and it stopped. So I apologize. Other events that are going on with like the Farm Implement Parade and Sunshine Days, they also require certain things as well.
Yes.
And so these are things that are probably going to be common across all events. So I'm just looking at this right now. Sorry, I've got everybody calling me right now. Looking at this right now, is there any suggestions for changing of language in this from any of you?
Well, it says for advertising or other service. So the other, you know, the little things that you bought, is that what wasn't being considered because it's not a service? Amy?
For me, it was my bands because those is what I had spent majority. You know, that I had asked, because I've really, and if you looked in the years past, I've never asked for reimbursement for money or for the bands. I'm sorry, for bands. This was the first year. That's really, I didn't put in the garbage bags, the brooms and stuff because I was hopeful, well, I already bought it so I can use it for Sunshine Days type thing. So my main concern was like the bands. I had already spent that and I'm like, okay, we're canceled. I think I did get reimbursed for some advertisement, but this was before the COVID because I had already paid for, and I had said, okay, since I already paid that, I can use what I paid for. I'll use it for Sunshine Days and have the company give me an invoice saying it's paid, but she's using it for Sunshine Days. And I had talked to Jackie and I told her I would turn it in. So there's proof that I did use that for Sunshine Days. Because it was kind of hard. I was paid for Cinco. Because I know there was one that didn't reimburse me. Because California was still shut down. And so it was hard to get a hold of, and it's the movie theaters. The movie theaters are not working or not up yet.
Okay.
Oh, yeah. So I guess the only thing that I can say is that there should be some sort of, not just early termination, but there should be some sort of wording as far as like state of emergency, you know, just like this situation, but use that kind of wording so that kind of stuff can be covered, because that was, you know, it's no one's fault. But it, you know, she shouldn't have to, or any of us, if Rotary did the same thing, like, you know, we shouldn't have to incur that, but it should be worded in a way that it's, you know, like this situation, a state of emergency. If something happened, if you know, 9/11 happened again, and, you know, they say you can't have certain things happening right now, stuff like that. I guess that's the only suggestion I can think of right now. But I don't know how to say to cover all of that stuff and the bands and everything. I would just say any expenses incurred.
Well, that's pretty wide open, and I think that.
No. That's hard.
So Amy's from 2019 specifically says request for reimbursement for advertising expenses, and it doesn't have that, what was it? Rotaries had,
Yeah. it said services, so I just didn't know if that. It says other service occurring, but.
So, and at this point, that's kind of what we did, because it said shall be reviewed and subject to prior approval by the city.
Yeah.
And that's what we did. I mean, we discussed this at council and it was debated, but so we did follow that. And I guess, and maybe what we can do is we can think about this a little bit too. And at the next time we meet, then we could have Mr. Casey there, because I think he had some things in mind.
Okay.
But
Yeah, I would like to hear what Mr. Casey thinks, or maybe kind of look into maybe what other cities do.
yeah,
For-
because right now it kind of feels like we're inventing the wheel on our own. If we can take a look at some other examples. And again, I had the feeling that he had some ideas.
Okay,
But maybe I misinterpreted that too, but I'd sure like to have him a chance to speak on that.
yeah, I would too, and then kind of go from there.
Okay. So let's do that. We'll make sure that this is on the agenda for our next meeting and invite Mr. Casey to be there if he wasn't already planning on it. Everyone all right with that?
Yeah.
All right, item F, provide direction for the 2021 lodging tax general and Cinco de Mayo request for proposals. Okay, Jackie, can you comment on this one?
Yes, so I added this onto the agenda just so LTAC can provide me some direction. So at this time, we would be preparing to release the RFP for, which is request for proposals for the general stuff, and then also for Cinco de Mayo. So I just want LTAC to let me know. I put in some dates. Let me scroll down. So these are the dates that I put in. Obviously, funding has been affected, like revenue. So I don't know how much you guys will be able to give out to people, but so these are the dates. People can still submit their requests, but these are the dates that I have. So I just put in August 19th as the due date. So I don't know if that works for you guys. And then LTAC would review it in August, and then council review LTAC recommendations in September. So you guys tell me what you guys want to do. And also, if any of the wording on here needs to be changed, are there too many questions, or are there not enough questions? I looked at other cities, and I looked at Prosser's, and we had the same information. Prosser just doesn't have all of those questions that we have. Where is it? They don't have all these questions here.
Okay.
So just let me know what you guys want me to do.
Well, are our questions out of line in any way?
No, they're not. No. It's helpful. I think it's helpful. It's been helpful to the committee in the past when the representative that submitted this application isn't there. It gives them a little bit more information of what their event is about. So yeah, but it's up to you. What do you guys think? Is it too much? Too many questions?
I know I had suggested that I know for the Cinco proposal, it's a little bit different than the general proposal. And I know in the Cinco one, it requests, I believe it's like an agenda or from the starting that you have to give of what you're going to be doing each month, kind of like, I guess, a guideline to show us. Let me see. Or it might be changed. I know when it first did it, we had to put it on there. Trying to see where. So I wanted to see if we could do that for the other ones, like for other events, if people requested.
Okay, Go ahead, Lindsay.
To put an agenda, is that what you're, or a schedule of what the event would look like?
Yeah, I know before we had gotten people asking for money and they weren't, we kind of wanted a timeline of how it was gonna, what they were going to do. I guess, this month they were marketing, this month they were gonna do this kind of, I guess better to know that they're, how would I say it? I guess they're on the right track.
Okay, yeah.
I know we talked about it last meeting. I don't know if you remember.
Not really, but it does make sense because there were a couple that we had last year that, it seemed like they came in and they knew how much money they wanted, but they didn't know.
They couldn't explain to us how they were going to pull off the event. And it was more kind of, oh, around this time we'll start advertising, or, oh, I think we're going to do it around this time. Mm-hmm. There wasn't a really direct, this is when we're going to have it. This is when.
Mm-hmm. I was kind of on the same lines as far as just advertising. I kind of thought if they did get money, or if they did the event in the past, to give us an example of the advertising that they did. Because that was a question I had for a couple of things last year. Was that they said they advertised, but they couldn't, they didn't show anything or anything like that. So I guess along the same kind of lines, I would like to see some sort of plan.
So what you'd like to see is some sort of a portfolio of, okay, we've done events before. This is what we did. Here's some examples of what we did. And this is what we had to spend on it as a percentage of our budget, and so on, that sort of thing.
Yeah, because I know for the Cinco one, I guess the RFP for Cinco de Mayo, it asks us to show reference that, people have worked with us, kind of like a job when you have to send a resume. And I know for the general one, if somebody was asking for events, it doesn't have it on there. It like experience, or it has project approach and the vision. I think that's what the Cinco one has that the other ones don't have. And yes, it's more work, but to add in there, but it actually is really good because then we can see it's just not anybody coming in and saying, I want money to do this, but they don't really have a plan. And we might say, oh yeah, it's a good idea, we like it. And then they don't have showing us that they're capable of doing this event, or they're asking.
I'm sorry, I interrupted somebody. Go ahead.
No, that was fine.
I'm just looking at the proposal for the Cinco de Mayo and the general proposal, and they are quite different.
Yeah. Cinco de Mayo is very deep. There's a lot in there. And it's actually really, I like it because it helps me keep on track. Like if I forget, like, oh, okay, this month I did this and this, and I kind of sometimes go back to my proposal and look, oh, I, do this, or I'll forget, like, when did I start my meetings? Oh, I put in the proposal, I started my meetings this day. So it helps me, and I would like to see for the other ones to kind of do the same and to show us we can do this.
And I think I understand where you're coming from, and I like the idea because, while Cinco de Mayo is one of our most important events of the year, the top two big ones are the Lighted Implement Parade and Cinco de Mayo. There's just no arguing about that. Mm-hmm. And I would like to see at least the Lighted Farm Implement Parade have something like this, to where we know where that's going as well. Because if that's something that all of a sudden decides not to happen, well, that's a problem. And if it's by, if we accidentally hire somebody who doesn't have doesn't have the experience or doesn't know what they're doing. Yeah. I understand that. I might be a little bit more reluctant in something like Sort for a Cause, but.
Yeah, and I think general like that, I wouldn't request. It's more of like, when I did Sunshine Days, I kind of did it like Cinco because I wanted to show my plan of what I had. but let's say somebody comes up and they're like, I want to do farm implement parade, and they just fill it out, but yeah, it doesn't show us anything, their plan, what they can do. Who knows, it could be their first event and we have no,
Mhm.
yeah. So I really like to have this for the Cinco one, and I'd like to see it for the other ones.
Well,
So
at
I
the
think
very
that would
least, I'd
be-
like to go this direction for something like the farm implement parade.
This is Jackie. That was the intention of the previous city clerk, to bring to LTAC the signature events, have them have a RFP of their own. She started with Cinco de Mayo. And it was at our last meetings, I had talked to LTAC about it, and we just needed to work out what they wanted to see out of the events, and then we could create a specific RFP. We just haven't met. And so we could do that for next year. We just have to meet and talk about what you want to see out of these signature events.
What are considered the signature events? So the lighted parade and Cinco de Mayo, is Sunshine Days under that also?
Yes, Sunshine Days is
Okay. Is that it?
those
this point.
three. Yes.
Okay. Okay.
So let's and this is something I'd really like to do when we can meet in person, because
Yeah.
and I think do a better job.
Yeah.
But the same thing as I would still, I guess in other situations, I would still like to see some sort of, they don't have to do the project timeline, but some sort of like what they do for advertising. Are they, like I know there's the receipts that we see, but like an example of it, if they say that they do advertising, they pay for advertising on Facebook, what do those look like? That or something, an example, or if they do it in the newspaper, something like that. So
So what you're saying, you'd like to tighten up the other contract as well,
yeah,
or proposal, I guess is what we're looking at now.
yeah, the proposal, I would, yeah. I mean, I know it doesn't matter for me because when I fill mine out, ours is a signature event. And so it'd go along the same lines as what Amy was just talking about. But being on LTAC last year, there was just a lot of questions. And if those people weren't there, it was going to be really hard to get those questions answered. And so I feel like having them put it in the proposal, we can actually like look at it and see it. And
once again, if the principal there cannot be present at that meeting, then we don't have to go and just make so much guesswork.
yeah.
So. Okay, well, we can definitely work on that. The earliest, as I understand it, that the state might possibly allow us to meet in person would probably be mid-July. Hopefully that can happen. The way this year's gone, I'm not going to be horribly optimistic beforehand. But let's we're going to have to put some work in. It's not going to be, we can't do what I'm saying here, the implement parade. We can't get that put together for this year, but we can certainly make work of getting it for next year.
So does the committee want me to hold off on sending these two out?
Say that again.
So does the committee want me to hold off on sending these proposals out? Because I would have to advertise. So what would you guys like me to do?
Let's see. What was your advertising date again?
Oh, let me see.
July.
Right here. So the due date I had on there was August 19th.
Right.
And I would advertise the 22nd, the 29th, and August 5th. But we can always push these dates back. That's fine. So if you guys want to revise these applications and then also add in those other ones, we can do that. I just brought these up because it's almost time. We usually send them out in the summer.
Yeah. And do we want to, if we move that back 1 week, are we going to be able to, do you think, meet in person and discuss this and put this together?
I'm not sure. It's kind of difficult to say because right now the OPMA proclamation suspending some of the OPMA rules is extended until July 7th, which is next Tuesday. And so depending on what the governor wants to do, then it may be extended again. And we could meet in person. We just have to be 6 feet apart, and we could do it at the fire station like we normally do. It's just the committee is just 5 anyways. It just depends on when, if and when they extend the proclamation where we can't meet in person.
Right. So the week after next, I'm going to be on vacation, so I'm not going to be able to meet at that point anyway. So it would have to be next week or after that. And the next question is, do we want to try to tighten these up for next year's events, or do we want to do it for the year after so a year from now they'll get better?
I would like to, I personally would like to see it for this upcoming.
Okay, so get it done before they submit their RFPs then.
Yeah, I don't know, Lindsay, what do you?
Yeah, I know this is a difficult year as far as meeting in person, but I would still like to see that happen. Sure. I mean, I'm adding more work for myself, but
Well,
I would still, it'd be easier as far as being on LTAC. It would be better. We
okay,
could try
well,
to-
why don't we try to schedule another meeting here? You guys want to try to meet next week, or do you want to wait off for 2 weeks?
I can, I mean, I'm open, but I don't know what everybody else is doing.
I cannot meet next week. So, but after that, I'm good.
Okay, so
You're going to be gone the week of the 13th, Dean?
I am, yes.
Okay, so we can meet the week of the 20th.
And that would be perfectly fine. Jackie, you want to kind of poll the members and see if we can get 4 out of the 5 or all 5 of us there for the same day?
Sure. So just any day, the 20th through the 24th?
Yeah, I would say so. And you guys okay with this time of day?
Yeah,
Okay, because it works best for me, 4:30 on, so.
yeah, I'm free. I'm free. I usually get everything done in the morning, so.
Okay, so I'll start calling the other members and see what day works best for them too. And then this same time, 4:30. And what would you like on the agenda? So these 2 RFPs. And then the
And-
contract language. Okay, anything else?
Well, we don't have any proposals in yet to examine. Unless under section 2 items from committee members, somebody brings something up. Those will be the 2 that's on there at this point. And I don't think it needs to be a huge meeting, as far as time consumption. I think we can look at a lot of what's in the Cinco de Mayo contract and make that fit to the other contracts as well. Or proposals. I keep saying contracts, I mean proposals.
Yes.
Okay, are we okay there?
Yeah.
Okay, then let's move on to items from committee members. You guys have anything that needs to be brought up?
No.
Not at this point. Staff, Jackie.
I don't have anything other than what we've talked about already.
Okay. Future agenda items, obviously, we're going to be advertising the RFPs. and receiving those hopefully by the 19th of August, unless we change the date. And then in September, we'll be looking at all of those. So I think those are what's going to be on future agenda for our September meetings. And next meeting, I think we're leaving that open to the week after. What did you say, the week of the 20th? And then
Yes.
we will have our meeting set for that time. And then after that, then we'll be looking at September. Sound correct?
Yep.
Hey, Jackie, do you want to set a meeting date for September now, or do you want to wait until some of those proposals come in and we can meet then?
A meeting in September.
To go over proposals.
August 19th, August 27th. It's
you got us.
whenever you guys want to.
Got us on August 27.
Yeah.
Just gotta look
So
at my
you can
calendar a
do the
minute.
following. It just depends on when you guys actually want me to send out the advertisement for people to send in their RFPs. And do you want to give them 3 weeks? Do you want to give them 4 weeks?
What do you typically give them?
I think we did 4 this time. And I think we've done 4 in the past too.
Okay.
I think I got 4.
So
I won't send any advertising out for this to be for any requests until your next meeting when you change these up.
yeah, I think that's the best idea. And then maybe on our next meeting, when we get the language changed and come to an agreement on that, then we can set our timeline. Because hopefully we can do it in one meeting, unless council needs to approve it. Hopefully we can just get that done quick and then get those RFPs sent out and give people a chance to fill them out.
Council approve.
Does council have to approve any language change on our proposals?
No, but if you'd like to take it to them, that's fine. That doesn't seem like a bad idea.
Well, no, and I would definitely bring it up in items from council members and reports and that sort of thing.
Yeah, that sounds nice. Give them an opportunity to review it and see what they would like to see too.
And if you can remind me, I will mention it at the next regular meeting as well.
Okay.
The nice thing about not having in-person council meetings is nobody sees my absolutely horribly messy papers that I'm taking notes on when I'm making reports, but
That's okay.
okay, so
It's
anything that I missed?
Before you adjourn the meeting, I don't know if it was time, but I just want to remind you, you have 2 absences. I don't know what the committee wants to do about excusing them or not excusing. I did talk to Tom Denley before all of this, and he kind of was the reason why we scheduled it on a Thursday, because he said he was available, and I spoke to him 2 days ago, and he says he was going to be out of town, so he did let me know he wasn't going to be part. And Marty Beeler, I've been trying to contact him for some time, and I've left voice messages, and I haven't received a response.
Okay, what's the feeling of the committee on that?
This is our first time nobody's came. So I don't know what protocol is.
So if you want to excuse, like at council, if somebody gives like a call and say, I can't make it, can you excuse my absence? Then council says, okay, we're going to excuse. So you make a motion a second, or we can say no objection. Marty Beeler, he didn't let us know if he was going to be here or not. So council normally wouldn't excuse them, but you know, it just depends. There's no rule. It's just whatever you guys want to do, if you want to excuse him or not. Because if you can't have three, if you have 3 unexcused absences, then the mayor has the option of removing that person from the board or committee. So just so you guys know.
But he was at every other meeting, right? I guess we haven't had many meetings.
I'll pull up what the minute said. If I know he was there for the 19th. I don't think he was here for the 25th.
Okay.
So he was here for the 19th, and so was Tom Denley.
He's absent for the 25th.
And then, yeah, he was absent on the 25th, and it's those absences have to be 3 consecutive absences. So he's fine right now. He
Yeah.
just can't miss the next one.
I guess if you call, you should be excused, but if you don't call, I mean,
I would say. I would say it's unexcused for who, I'm sorry, Beeler, that you couldn't get a hold of,
Yes.
and then excused if, yeah, somebody let you know. So,
And that's my inclination as well. I wanted you guys to have a chance to talk that out, but nobody was able to get a hold of Marty. He didn't return calls. So that would, my inclination would be that would be an unexcused absence, whereas Tom called and said he was going to be out of town. At least he called and talked to us. And so that would then be an excused absence. That's my feeling on it.
okay.
All in agreement?
Yes.
yes.
Okay, then with no objection, that is what we shall say, that Mr. Beeler is unexcused for this meeting and Mr. Denley is excused. Anything else I may have missed? Seeing none, if there is no objection, we shall adjourn this meeting. Don't all object at once?
Oh,
All right, thanks you guys for participating in this. I know it is not a regularly scheduled meeting, but some of this stuff was quite important that we get to as quickly as possible. I thank you for your time and your participation. So you guys have a great night.
you
Thank
too.
you.
Bye-bye.
Bye, everybody.
Thank you, Jackie.
You're welcome. Bye.
Bye.